Rest in peace, Mr. Hackman. Welcome back to Roast the Critics. I was not expecting to do a video today, but when I saw that Gene Hackman had sadly passed away, I was shocked because I thought he'd already died. I don't think I'd seen or heard of Gene Hackman since Behind Enemy Lines, which, if you're wondering, is not a film that ages well. I thought it would be appropriate to do a video on my favorite Gene Hackman film.
Enemy of the State.
Head on over to Rotten Tomatoes and you'll see that the audience gave it 78% while the critics gave it 71%. So now it's time to roast the critics that hated Enemy of the State. First up, we have Matt Lawrence from Film Critic. Matt says, in case you haven't figured it out yet, you're being watched as you read this. This is kind of interesting because he wrote this in 1998. It was posted to RT in 2000, but there were no iPhones, right? The Patriot Act wasn't even a thing. One interesting fact about Enemy of the State is that it was actually one of Saddam Hussein's favorite movies. So he's got all these things going for him. He's got like this mind of a fortune teller, but he loses all credibility because he hates Enemy of the State. He could track me down and warn me that the world is about to be overrun by a plague of gerbils. I would just look him in the face and say, but you hated Enemy of the State. So why would I listen to you? Makes no sense. I'm not going to listen to you on anything, ever. Paul Tatara from CNN says, it actually wears you out after a while. Just like Tony Scott's other movies, this one plays more like a hugely conceived wind sprint. Rest periods are few and far between. So clearly, the words action-packed is not a term that tickles Paul's fancy. Paul would much rather go into an action film and see just a little bit of action here and there. Just a little bit, not too much. Don't give me too much action, says Paul. He goes into a comedy. Don't you dare make me laugh too much. Too much laughter would be horrible. It's like saying that you hope a historical drama isn't extremely factual, just a little bit factual. Maybe he's a recovering alcoholic. He's used to saying just a little bit to drink, but not too much. So maybe he's just letting that flood into other parts of his life. Robert Horton from film.com says, how idiotic. I'm sorry, Horton Hears A Who? Mr. Horton needs to go back to preserving the unobserved communities of amoeba and bacteria, or whatever that elephant did. David Luddy from Film Journal International says, when the movie's trailer is more entertaining than the movie due to its increased lucidity and more relaxed pace, that should be enough to tip off any filmmaker that he's on the wrong track. So now we're getting two separate perspectives. We're getting people that say this movie is too jam-packed with action. And then we get guys like David here who says that there's just too many lulling parts, too many parts in between the action that actually ties the story together to make a cohesive whole. Too many dialogue scenes that explain that justify why the action is actually taking place. So to David here, story is irrelevant. Now, unfortunately, the nature of a trailer is to entice people by showing the most money-making scenes in a short span of 90 seconds or so. And David, if you just want to browse IMDb and watch trailers nonstop, be my guest. But don't then go and watch the film and expect it to be as explosive and fast-paced as the trailer itself. Brian Webster from Apollo Guide says, it should be called Enemy of Restraint. Well, of course, a guy with the last name of Webster is going to go ahead and try to change one of the words in the title. That tracks. Ian Matani from UK Critic says that Enemy of the State is a thriller that didn't thrill me, with heroes I didn't care about, villains I didn't believe, and a plot I could not follow. All right, so if the threat of big government is not thrilling enough, And somebody being harassed by that big government is nothing you can connect with. And you don't believe that the government and the mafia are actual villains, then that proves that you are extremely out of touch. And you have no business being a critic who's supposed to represent the audiences. And honestly, I wish I were Ian. I wish I were this guy. And traipsing through life with naivety and just expecting the government is actually here to help us all. It's to give us handouts and help us when we're feeling down. I wish I had this guy's observation on life. I really do. However, for Ian to say that he doesn't understand the plot of this movie, it's like saying that he can't follow Bambi. Two very different films, but both require the exact same level of intelligence to follow. Michael Wilmington from Chicago Tribune says, watching this movie is like being wired to a TV set on permanent channel surf mode. This is confusing because this review, as you see, it ends in an exclamation point. And that leads me to believe that he's actually, in fact, thrilled by this movie. Which then leads me to conclude he just doesn't know exactly how to score a movie. Hence the rotten score. The same could be said of another critic that I skipped. His name was Kevin Maynard from Mr. Showbiz. He ended his review with an exclamation mark. He said, another hackneyed, high-concept action flick. That sounds like a ringing endorsement. Dustin Putman from The Film File, he says, 5 times better than Bruckheimer's previous embarrassment, Armageddon. Oh boy. Of course, that isn't to say that it's actually good. It's just saying that it isn't terrible. I know my sleeves are already rolled up, but I'm doing this for theatrics. Dustin, you shut your dirty mouth about Armageddon. Dustin is hereby physically dismissed from this earth because of his bitterness toward Armageddon. Don't bring Armageddon into this fight. In fact, Armageddon is not even a movie to fight about. I can almost give you a pass for not liking Enemy of the State, but Armageddon? What the hell is your problem? You know what, Dustin? Just don't come crying to me or want to get in my bunker when the asteroids start heading toward Earth. So you take your dirty mouth and get out of here. I'm not playing around with this. If you would like me to do a film on Armageddon, please leave your comments down below. Rob Blackwelder from Spliced Wire says, if only the characters exercised common sense. I don't know, man. I mean, running from big government who's trying to gun you down is about as sensical as you can get. What was Will Smith supposed to do? Just bow down? Bow down. Oh, take whatever you want, government. Take my identity. Take my life. Take my freedoms. Would that have been a more sensical story? We all know who this guy voted for last November. Jeff Millar from Houston Chronicles says, since Tony Scott could not make this film snap, crackle, or pop faster or more loudly, you might find the evening a bit light. I'm sorry, Jeff. Did this movie not remind you enough of your cereal bowl? There was another critic. He compared the movie to grade A milk. You'd think that these two guys would get together and try to start their own breakfast club. Breakfast at the movies. All right, so I saved this review for last. It is from Carlo Kavanagh from About Film. Carlo wrote, high production values and Gene Hackman are the only things that stand out in this run-of-the-mill Hollywood paranoia thriller. Now, while I do disagree with this review overall, I do appreciate the fact that he did honorably mention Gene Hackman. And I never thought that I would review this film with the spotlight on Gene Hackman, because like I said, he's barely in the movie. This is, by and large, a Will Smith vehicle, along with Tony Scott, the director, and Jerry Bruckheimer. But it does go to show that whenever Will Smith and Gene Hackman were on screen together, It just goes to show how great the 90s were and how lucky we were to be alive during that time. The most honest review comes from Steve Rhodes from Internet Reviews. Steve says, Enemy of the State throws believability out the window and happily lets the audience just kick back and have some fun. Rest in peace, Mr. Hackman. Personally, I did not like you as an actor, and I really enjoyed a lot of the movies you were in. So, for what it's worth, thanks for being there. But don't then go and watch the film Traipsing Through Life with Complete Naivety. Shoot, how do I say that word?
Naivety.
And Traipsing Through Life with Naivety. Damn, I can't say that. Naivety. So you take your dirty mouth and you